Good evening. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and this evening will be a deck spotlight and buying guide for the Nova deck that has been featured in the last few videos. We'll talk about the deck, and then we'll talk about where to get the cards to make the deck and what the cost is. This is a leadership Nova deck. I think leadership is the best aspect for Nova in solo play. Generally, it's almost always going to be leadership or protection in solo, and it really depends on whether the hero can take advantage of the protection aspect or not. Usually that's going to be two defense heroes that have strong defensive cards like Captain America or Shadowcat, or it's going to be heroes that have three defense. Nova is not particularly defensive oriented hero. He does have force field projection, but generally defense isn't really what he is about. His kit is really about Unleash the Nova Force, Supernova Helmet, and Connection to the World Mind. Let's take a quick look at those cards. Supernova Helmet exhausts Supernova Helmet to generate a wild resource. When combined with Nova's hero ability, after you use one of Nova's basic powers, thwart, attack, or defend ready Supernova Helmet, this allows you to generate at least one extra resource per round, which is very important. Hero economy. The number of resources that a hero can generate, or the number of cards, is the biggest thing that will separate one hero from another. And the second biggest would be their defensive abilities. One way that Nova generates resource is Supernova Helmet, and the other way is Unleash the Nova Force. One cost event until the end of the round. Each time Nova defeats an enemy or removes the last threat from a scheme, ready Nova and draw a card, and then, as we saw in the gameplay videos, we can then use Nova's basic power again and ready the Supernova Helmet, and then go ahead and play more cards. This allows for some very big turns with a lot of resources generated and a lot of cards drawn. So back to the deck, we run a leadership deck that is designed to take advantage of Nova's resource generation by playing cards like Kalu, which draws a card, Maria Hill, which draws a card, Moon Girl, which draws anywhere from 1 to 3 cards, and White Tiger, which draws 2 cards. And then we use Regroup, Rapid Response, and make the call to recur those resource generating heroes. This core leadership deck is good with nearly any hero in the game in solo mode, except that you have to take Moon Girl out for most heroes, because Moon Girl only works with a hero with the champion trait, and there aren't that many of those. But with the heroes that Moon Girl works well with, she is a phenomenal card. So, taking a look at the left side of the screen, assuming that you have the core set and the Nova hero pack, the additional hero packs that you need are Black Widow, Wasp, Drax, the Mad Titan Shadow expansion, Ironheart, and Cyclops. And we'll talk a little bit about the cards that are in each of these hero packs and why they are important to the deck. Black Widow, in the Black Widow hero pack, is Rapid Response, a card which allows you to bring an ally back from the dead after it's been defeated by a boss attack with 1 damage on it, which allows you to re-trigger when enters play when enters play abilities. So Nick Fury can use his when enters play ability. Maria Hill can, Ironheart can. This is one of the strongest leadership cards in the game. It was released relatively early in the game's life cycle, and it remains an extremely strong leadership card. So I can recommend the Black Widow hero pack just for that card alone if you're a leadership player. From the Wasp hero pack, we have Ironheart, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and the Power on All of Us. Those cards make it into quite a lot of decks. Rapid Response makes it into almost any leadership deck. Not every leadership deck, but almost every leadership deck I've ever made has included Rapid Response. Ironheart, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Power and All of Us make their way into almost every deck that I make, because Power and All of Us allows you to get out Nick Fury or Avengers Mansion more efficiently. Miles Morales is just a good, solid value ally. He's never really bad. Ironheart is not quite exceptional, but pretty close to it, and an ally that's a good candidate for almost any deck. The Wasp Hero Kit is not that good, so it's a little bit unfortunate that these 3 basic cards that are all very solid were included in the Wasp Hero Pack, because they are needed for a lot of different decks. But the Wasp kit itself is not that good. Could you make this particular deck without the Wasp Hero Pack? You would definitely lose something. But yeah, you could. You could. Primarily Ironheart would be the biggest loss. But you could probably swap out these 3 cards for Strengthened Numbers or something like that, and not lose that much. Though you'd be down to only 8 allies and you'd be missing a couple of blockers. You couldn't really make this deck. The most important, I would say, packs for this deck are Regroup and Mad Titan Shadow. Because Regroup, well, Rapid Response doesn't work with White Tiger or with Moon Girl, who comes in the Nova Hero Pack, because those cards specify that the ally has to be played from your hand. But Regroup brings the allies back to your hand after they've been defeated, which allows you to replay White Tiger and Moon Girl, and it's very strong. Unfortunately, Regroup comes in the Drax Hero Pack, and the Drax Hero Pack is pretty lacking. Regroup is really the only thing that you'll get in there that's worth anything, in my opinion. And is Regroup strong enough to justify the cost of the Drax Hero Pack? I'll leave that to you. Regroup's a card that I initially overlooked, didn't think much of. It has limited use. I would say outside of the Nova deck, I don't know that Regroup gets that much play, because it's good with White Tiger, but you really need like 2 other cards that it's good with, and very good with Moon Girl, very good with White Tiger, but outside of those 2 cards, I don't think it's that good. So the Drax Hero Pack, if you're going to pick that up just to play a strong Nova deck, I'd recommend that only for a Nova enthusiast. The 3 cards from the Wasp Hero Pack are going to be used in a lot of different decks. The Rapid Response from the Black Widow Hero Pack is going to be used in a lot of different decks. Regroup is not going to be used in a lot of different decks. So make your decision on that one accordingly. From the Mad Titan Shadow expansion, we have White Tiger and Kalu. Those cards are included in almost every leadership deck that I've ever made. They're very strong leadership cards. For a leadership enthusiast, a leadership player, or a solo enthusiast, I would call them must-have cards in addition to Rapid Response, because leadership is so important in solo play, and those cards are so good for leadership decks in general. So if you are a leadership player in your multiplayer group, or if you're a solo enthusiast looking at which hero packs or expansions are important to buy, Mad Titan Shadow is a very important one just for White Tiger and Kalu. Unfortunately, the heroes included in the Mad Titan Shadow expansion, which are Spectrum and Adam Warlock, aren't that great. But White Tiger and Kalu are fantastic, and I really like the card Mighty Avengers from Mad Titan Shadow as well. So those 2 ally cards are certainly must-haves for any leadership player or for any solo player. From the Ironheart expansion, the Ironheart Hero Pack, we have Go for Champions and Vivian. Now, Vivian is probably the least important and most replaceable of the allies. Go for Champions is very strong, but it has recently been nerfed or errated. And now, instead of this card going to your discard pile when you play it, now it goes out of play. They errated it to say removed from the game. I guess that some multiplayer groups were using Go for Champions, and they were running a comp where every player would play a Champions deck, and then they would play Go for Champions, which says that no characters with a champion trait take damage for the round, which is quite strong. In solo, it's not overpowered. In multiplayer, it could be. Nonetheless, I wholeheartedly disagree with the decision to errata it. Erratas need to be done very, very carefully, particularly in a PvE game. It's like you sell players a product and then you change that product afterwards. That is not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. And in a non-competitive game, I can't really imagine a scenario where you would want to do that. But that's what they did. We players are, of course, free to ignore their errata and play the old version. That's probably what most players will do because they won't even be aware of the errata. But for what it's worth, it was errated. You can get away with not running the Ironheart hero pack for this deck. Either Go for Champions or Vivien are crucial to the deck's design. Go for Champions is quite good though, and you will lose something without it. It works with Ironheart, Miles Morales, Vivien, yes, but only for a relatively small amount. I don't think Vivien is that good. She's in the deck. She does stuff. She's not that good. You'll lose a little something from not having Go for Champions. It's probably the least important of the hero packs in this deck, though. The Ironheart hero pack. And the last one is Cyclops, and you need him just for Beast. I don't think Cyclops' hero kit is that good, but I do think that Beast is an elite ally. I think he's a big upgrade for leadership. You throw down Beast, you get a resource card, so you basically get 2 resources back, which means for 2 resources instead of 4, you get 4 thwart or 4 attack, and you get a chump block. And Beast can recur his ability when you bring him back with rapid response, or potentially regroup or make the call as well, which will make rapid response free. Because you rapid response Beast back in, he generates his resource card, and then for the cost of 0, you get 4 thwart or 4 attack and a chump block. That is amazing. Beast and Ironheart I'd put at kind of the same level in terms of their value to the deck. Spider-Man is below that. Vivien is last. Moon Girl is the best ally in the deck, followed by White Tiger. So that should give you some idea of which ones to prioritize. And Glue I'd rank similarly to Beast or Ironheart, if not identically. So those are the important allies, the important hero packs to making this particular Nova deck. And what was its ceiling? Well, it beat Rhino on Heroic 1. It was able to get Absorbing Man, Crossbones, and then there are a couple others it would do well against. Those would be the relatively easy ones that don't get played that much. Wrecking Crew on Heroic 1 I'm sure it would have no trouble with. Risky Business, the tower defense scenario from Mad Titan Shadow. These are the ones that have a lot of setup that don't get played that much but really don't present that much of a challenge. So the ones that do get played more often, Rhino, Absorbing Man, Crossbones, this Nova deck did pretty well against. It did not do well against Mutagen Formula on Heroic 1, and I don't think anything more difficult than that it would do well against either. Brotherhood of Badoon, Taskmaster, Mysterio, Ebony Maw, anything a tier up from the relatively easy Heroic 1 scenarios, the Nova deck doesn't do that well against. It's a lot of fun to play though. It's a lot of fun to play because there's a lot of decisions to be made. So I enjoyed it quite a lot. For a total cost of $141, if all you have is the core set, that's the total cost that that is what this deck would cost you, is $141 if all you have right now is the core set. Well, it's fun, but this isn't the deck that will take you through the most difficult content in the game. It can defeat a few scenarios on Heroic 1 difficulty, but struggles beyond that. And struggles because Nova, he can ready a lot, but he has relatively weak stats and no way to upgrade them. He can generate resources a lot, but only sporadically when he has Unleashed the Nova Force. Does get at least one extra every round with Supernova Helmet, which is good, but he's handicapped by his low stats and inability to upgrade those stats. And his events are okay, but nothing special. They're acceptable, but except for Unleash the Nova Force, they're really not that good. Lightspeed Flight, typically 1 cost for 3 threat, is meh. Pot Shot, a little better at 2 for 4, or 1 cost for 4, which is acceptable, but nothing exceptional. Nova is missing the ability to stun or confuse the enemy, any enemy. So, he's missing damage, he's missing crowd control, stun, or confuse. But he is a lot of fun to play, and he can do some things. So he's above average in that regard, but nothing exceptional. And for a total cost of $141, if all you have is the core set, is that worth it? Well, I'll leave that to you, the player, to decide. This is my opinion about the capabilities of Nova. And I do believe that this is, if not the strongest, it's certainly one of the strongest Nova decks for solo play. Everything I've said should come with the caveat that it is primarily from the point of view of a solo player, and this may very well not be the best deck for multiplayer. Nova may reach greater heights in multiplayer, I can't say, but I'd be a little bit surprised. So I view Nova as an above average hero, but nothing exceptional. So I hope we got a lot more of these hero spotlights to come. And thank you for watching.